Samurai 8, Chapter 22 continues on with the battle between Hachimaru and the Samuhime Samurai, as Hachimaru's shining white blade gleams through the air as they begin to clash. The Samuhime Samurai is immediately just perplexed by this, as he realizes that Hachimaru is the key to one of the boxes. We also have this nice moment where the Samuhime princess and An are both, bestowing their wills upon their samurai. And it's like this nice little moment where you're actually seeing the energy radiating off of them. Meanwhile, Dharma is actually really impressed by the power that the two of them are actually putting out. It's like they're actual true samurai. And, once the Hachimaru's blade starts to cut into that Samuhime samurai's sword, he realizes that, man, like, to actually be doing this to my sword with the amount of skill and power I should have, there's a powerful prayer coming off of that girl. That's the kind of thing that only years of trust could actually do. But they don't look like siblings, not blood related, and it doesn't give off the vibe that they've known each other for a long time. There's something deeper in this princess's emotions that is bestowing Hachimaru with even greater power than ever before. And we actually come to find out that, yes, An is actually pushing herself past her limits as we see her nose starting to bleed. And, An starts to think back to Kotsuga's words that sometimes some people want things that they just want to forget. And for An, that is the memory of her older brother. Now, An had a tendency to get picked on by various people. People who wanted to take her as their, princess and so on and so forth. So she would be protected by this person, Nanashi, her older brother. Now, Nanashi isn't so much related to the Nanashi that we knew, but it is a typical name for those who are nameless, those who are poorer and without actual homes. Basically, Nanashi and An were homeless for most of their young childhoods. But Nanashi would always come and protect An. And, well, he'd tell An to run away, and he'd promptly get beaten to hell. He'd always return with bumps and bruises and all these injuries, but he'd return with a smile, deeming that he would always make sure that An would not be made fun of, that he would protect her forever. Because that's what he had to do. That was the role of a big brother. But, we realized that, An had actually done a lot to try to forget about her big brother. Because, when their parents died, apparently, and they became orphans, when her mother died and she became an orphan, she was taken in by Nanashi. And he looked out for her. He did things for her. He was there for her as best he could be. Because he promised her mother to look after her. So even though they weren't related by blood, they was really there for her in a lot of ways that, he comes off very similar to Hachimaru, and this is a typical writing technique with Kishimoto. He loves his parallels to other characters who carry on that will or just carry on that appearance and that guise of others. And that's really there with a Nanashi, this ambitious, almost bratty little kid who wants to be a warrior. And in terms of his name, Nanashi, which, is kind of put in the way of nameless. He decides that he'll spell his name because, Japanese names can be spelled very differently. And in this case, he rewrites the name in a way that it declared seven riches. Seven, eight. Nanashi is seven, Hachimaru is eight. So again, Kishimoto loves those obvious parallels, but that's a thing in Japanese culture, and it doesn't quite translate over to English culture so much, or else it kind of comes off a little too hokey. That's why when it comes to Death Stranding, you have a lot of characters with weird names, because that's from a Japanese director. He loves his, really on-the-nose comments like Die Hard Man or Dead Man or stuff like that. It's just like there's literal meanings behind those names. And Nanashi declares that he wants these seven things. There are seven things he wants to be rich with. But he actually ends up messing up and goes all the way up to eight. So thinking that one more wouldn't hurt. He didn't go about visiting the local dojo with a locker ball in it, and the fact that he wants to become a samurai sometime in the, at some point. And that's where they first met Un and Hagamichi, the Black Wolf, who kind of chastised them for being so close to the locker ball because it's not supposed to be open to the public. But they actually have this nice little meeting between everyone, and Un talks about what it would take for Nanashi to actually become a samurai, and how you need a fated princess, and how the unlikeliness of actually becoming a samurai. And it's not really something you should rush into, because it really does come down to luck and what you have to do to become a samurai, which is the one thing that always gets me about when we talk about this possibly becoming an anime. You have to stab yourself in the gut. You must commit suicide. You have to kill yourself. And little children stabbing themselves to die. I don't know how well that's actually going to go over for Japanese broadcasting, as they've started to crack down a little bit on what they actually show during certain times of the day. So I don't know how well this is all gonna go over. All depends on who actually picks up this series. But Nanashi starts wearing his hair in a top knot, so he can be as cool as Hagamichi and all that good stuff, only for them to be met by the bullies from before with double the manpower this time around, who look to basically beat up Nanashi for what he'd done, and they just start wailing on him. And he's just taking it. He's not running away or anything like that. But An, seeing this, decides to step in because of all this, and ends up taking a really bad blow right to the collarbone. Like with the way that they were beating Nanashi, it's just kind of like, okay, he's in the ground, he's in the fetal position, he's protecting all of his organs. Ooh, An takes one right to the shoulder, like in a way that is just like, yeah, she broke something. They broke something on her, or they just knocked her unconscious, because it's just like, where they hit her, like, no, she would definitely go down. So they run away like a bunch of little cowards because they hit An, and An as actually a person of note within their town. But Nanashi feels so terrible because he really wanted to keep An safe. He wasn't sure what he should do in order to protect her. So, with tears in his eyes, he returns to the dojo, and, he goes up to the locker ball, and he ends up committing suicide in front of it in order to gain its power, only for, nothing to happen, because ultimately, he didn't really understand. I feel like it didn't happen for him because he didn't fully understand what needed to be done. And he didn't fully have that the true drive he needed. I think he was after more of revenge than anything else. He had a good heart. It just wasn't fully developed enough for him to actually be able to be bestowed with this power. He didn't have the warrior instinct or something like that. And it's just a really heartbreaking moment, as he really wanted to be there for An, and now he's not even able to be there in his own limited extent. And so, Nanashi dies in An's arms as various samurai spot them, because this is an off limits place. And you see the parallels between these moments, Nanashi's death and the death of Hachimaru's father, and how Nanashi said that he would do his best to protect An, and then Hachimaru said the same thing. Nanashi had An's mother's little grave marker inside of her house. That a lot of Japanese cultures have these little things because they cremate their dead, and they have markers to represent their families and stuff like that. And Hachimaru at the gravesite of his father, and how Nanashi felt so great about having his top knot, and Hachimaru, who had his own top knot going on and all that good stuff, and how An had that moment where she did try to step in, with Nanashi with the bullies, and Hachimaru with Ada, and how the determination in Nanashi's eyes, when the determination in Hachimaru's eyes, and how they both have the representations of, having one more thing that they want to protect, making 8, and that not being something that would hurt, and 8 being the representation of Hachimaru's name, Hachi meaning 8. And so these strong feelings that she's had in the past, these parallel feelings that she's relating to Hachimaru, are giving Hachimaru the power that he needs in order to strike through the Samohime Samurai's blade, cutting it in twain, and managing to defeat him in battle, in a just combat. And it's a nice little moment, honestly. Like, this series has had its ups and downs, but An's backstory is actually a pretty nice one. We didn't really need it, all things considered, but it just goes to show why there's actually this connection between the two of them, and what's really driving An behind the scenes. She hasn't seen fit to tell Hachimaru about this, but maybe she just feels that maybe he doesn't quite need to know. She now has found someone who she wants to support in the way that she couldn't support before. And so she's going to use those feelings and emotions to give Hachimaru her all in terms of combat. And that's just a nice moment, a nice sentiment, if nothing else. I really enjoyed this chapter. And hey, tell me your thoughts and feelings in the comments section below. How did you feel about the backstory of An? Did you feel that it was too simple? Did you feel that it could have gone a different way? Did you not sympathize with An's situation as before? And does that actually come to show that maybe the relationship between An and Hachimaru won't be so much that of a protagonist and a love interest, as more it'll be like siblings, if nothing else? Maybe that's what Kishimoto has decided to go in terms of this series. Time will have to tell. But if you like this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another Samurai 8 chapter review. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. 18 or older only, please. And until the next video, just remember that if you want, I can be your big brother as well. Maybe not. That sounds a little creepy. Until next time, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm going to bed. Bye-bye.